Good evening, everyone. I welcome you to this roundtable discussion today, whose topic is leading digital transformation with cognitive security. In this pandemic, we have seen the way we work, the business operate, how it has changed drastically vis-a-vis when we compare it to pre-pandemic time. Right? We've definitely worked on several initiatives that has enhanced the employee productivity by enabling them to work from wherever they are, work from home, popularly known as, right? But at the same time, such things, these technological advancements have opened up a lot of areas by exposing the infrastructure to the unknown vulnerabilities. There are multiple industries that are flourishing during this time, and one of those, unfortunately, here is the cyber frauds, right? And in cyber attacks, they are today increasing at an unprecedented pace. And on top of that, there is a lack of skilled people with enough security knowledge that makes it more worrisome, the whole situation. So there is artificial intelligence, which is coming to help to rescue the security analysts to not only just fight with those threats, but also kind of stay ahead of these threats and make sure that there is hardly any impact or zero impact on their enterprises, right? So today's discussion, we are going to cover all the aspects that are going to be leading to us, from a leading digital transformation with cognitive security, which is the utmost, concern for all of us today. And I really look forward to learning a lot of practical on-ground things from each one of you, because you bring a lot of industry experience to the table. Today, I have with me in my panel discussion, Ms. Pooja Chatrat, who's the CIO, CryoViva Biotech. She will be joining very soon. Mr. Matthew Joseph, VP and Head AI Labs, Apar Technologies. Mr. Satyendra Dwivedi, CTO, Mahindra Holidays and Resort. Mr. Mukesh Jain, CTIO and VP, Insights and Data, Capgemini. Mr. Jitendra Mishra, VP Group CIO, Alembic Pharma, and Mr. Tushar Jain, who's the cybersecurity expert and pre-sale leader at IBM India. And along with that, we have one more practitioner with us today, which is Mr. Dinesh Kumar, Security Solution Architect at Raksha Technologies. Welcome you all.
Thank you.
Excellent. Now, I request each one of you, one by one, to introduce yourself very quickly. May I start with you, Mr. Sitendra?
Okay. Thanks, Daya. So, as you mentioned, I currently am working in Mahindra Holidays as CTO. I have around 25 years of experience. I'm a graduate of IIT Kanpur and I'm Bangalore. I work for almost all aspects of technology. I started my career with Infosys as a consultant, worked for product company like Oracle for many years, and then being part of many startups and now working with enterprises. So I always say I have seen 360 of the technology.
Wow, and, super.
Yeah, that's all from my side.
Excellent, excellent. Mr. Mukesh, over to you.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. My name is Mukesh Jain, Chief Technology and Innovation Officer for Capgemini. 25 years of experience, predominantly worked in product company like Microsoft. So the Outlook which you all use, I built Outlook in 1999, including the first ever AI algorithm for Microsoft. I built it around the same time frame. Always in product company. Recently, I decided to join service company to get the customer flavor, and we'll be sharing my experience using AI in cybersecurity today.
Oh, excellent. Looking forward to it. Mr. Matthew, thank you so much, Mr. Mukesh. Mr. Matthew.
Yeah, thanks, Daya. My name is Matthew Joseph. I work with Apar Technologies as a Vice President and Head of Artificial Intelligence Lab for a multinational bank. So I'm leading this Artificial Intelligence Lab and developing AI solutions for the bank end-to-end, transforming the entire bank, which is spread across multiple countries. And before APAR Technologies, I was working with IBM for about 12 years. And prior to that, I worked with TCS. And overall, I have 29 years of experience and worked with different industries. So looking forward to contributing well in this discussion. And
Sure.
really glad to join this team
Thank you
in
so much.
discussing this topic.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Mr. Jitendra.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Jitendra Mishra. I'm a group CIO of Alembic Pharmaceuticals. I have a 26 years of experience. So I work with GlaxoSmithKline almost 15 years, Mumbai. I work with Dr. Reddy's. I work with Granules, Hyderabad. I work with Oneberry, and I am at this point in Alembic. So I have only one vertical, that is a core experience on a pharmaceutical. For each and everything, right from your drug discovery to the market, this thing, and having a quite exposure of automation of your smart plant and industry 4.0. But looking to the current wave of cyber threat and cyber security, so I'm shifting my more focus on cyber security side, because we deal in a clinical trials and we deal in a very highly regulated environment. So my core focus at this point, at least maybe 3 months, 6 months, only for the information security per se.
So my last question of this roundtable is going to be to you, in the interest of everyone, and take your views on vaccine, when the vaccine will come. But we will keep it for the last.
Sure.
So
sure,
that is going to be most interesting questions for all of us. Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Jitendra. Mr. Tushar, over to you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Tushar Ranjan, and I am working at IBM India. So I am working in IBM for the last around close to 2 years, and I am in the threat management security portfolio of IBM. So which primarily is comprised of solutions like security information and event management QRadar, our flagship threat management portfolio product, and security orchestration and automation response solution, that is IBM Resilient. Then I2, that is a threat hunting solution, and then a whole range of products and services from IBM Xforce Threat Management and Xforce Exchange. And besides that, I also look into the digital trust portfolio, which solutions which are comprised of end-to-end data security solution like IBM Guardian security product family. And so that is primarily in the IBM, my tenure. And before that, I have worked in organizations like Hewlett-Packard Enterprise, DXC Technologies, and Infosys and Wipro Technologies, and my first organization, GE, General Electric. So all along, I have been in the security domain only, and then graduated from security operations to security pre-sales and technical sales. That's how.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Shah. Over to you, Mr. Dinesh. A very quick introduction of yourself. Yeah.
This is Dinesh from Raksha Technologies. I'm security solution architect, and Raksha is a pure play cyber security solution provider, which is located across South. And I take care of consulting, designing, and execution of cyber security solutions.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And once again, welcome everyone on board for this, insightful discussion that we are going to have. I think I'll like to start this session with asking my first question to Mr. Mukesh. That how is the threat landscape undergoing a change? And I'll have the same question for Mr. Matthew also. But let's first hear Mr. Mukesh, what he has to say on this.
Yes, threat landscape have changed. And as you said, right, most of the business are flourishing, including cyber threats, cyber frauds. So with this change from working from office, from working from home, what has happened is a lot of companies have lowered their guards in the beginning to be able to allow to have the continuity and all. And that was the reason probably some people got a negative advantage of those and then be able to do those. I think that the landscape have changed significantly. And considering that this is going to be new normal, we soon have to accept the fact that people might be working from different locations, different machines and all, and the request might come in, it might feel more genuine and you're not seeing people, right? So that's where it becomes a lot more challenging. As we go forward, it's important for us to be able to detect the pattern about what kind of frauds would be happening and come up with those innovative solutions. Because with this one, earlier it was firewalls where there, earlier we had the VPNs and all of those we are able to do. But now with so much of usage and all, some of the VPNs have been to be tweaked to be able to allow people to without VPN as well. So I think those are the landscape changes happening and becomes lot more vulnerable. Your organization and your data become a lot more vulnerable to be able to manage this part. So that is what I would say the new normal is. And of course, creating more challenges for us to be able to manage those.
Right. Thank you so much. Your views, Mr. Matthew, on this?
Yeah, so with this COVID pandemic, the world order is suddenly changing unexpectedly, and nobody expected this, and no one is prepared for this, especially the industry. So the world will be physically disconnected and digitally connected, and that's where the world is moving in. Of course, the IT industry was earlier connected to some extent, digitally connected, and they were digital, and some of the industries like banking or online retail were at least partially digital. But if you look at the conventional businesses like manufacturing, petroleum refining, or steel, they are also partially they also need to become more digital. And suddenly what happened is now people are working from home, and then they are forced to do that. And many of these conventional industries, traditional industries, are not equipped from a technical point of view, and they are forced to do that. So when someone is forced to jump into the waters without knowing the swimming, and they are not equipped, there are of course challenges, threats, which people are going to be misusing it, and people are going to face that. And then second is many of these SMEs are utilizing the cloud, public cloud, the Amazon, the Oracle cloud or Google cloud, many of this. So the data is also moving to the public domain from their walls of organization, from within their organization, it is moving to the public domain. Again, another challenge for the data threat in terms of data privacy, data security. It's going to be a problem, and the organizations, they may not have the enough people, the technical expertise to handle. So that also is throwing a lot more challenges. So the pandemic is forcing people, the businesses, irrespective of their size, to jump into this middle of the sea, and then many people are not technically capable or equipped to protect themselves in terms of data privacy, security. So it's a major challenge which we have to face, and we don't have an option there.
Great, thank you so much. So I think Mr. Mukesh spoke about lowering the guards, and Mr. Matthew spoke about the organizations were kind of pushed into it, the situation that they have to deal with this kind of scenario today. Looks like there is some insightful inputs from Mr. Satyendra also, and Mr. Satyendra, over to you.
So I totally agree with Mukesh and Matthew. Okay, just want to put a little bit structure on that. So for sure, user has been exposed because of work from home. But other thing this pandemic has forced company to become digital. It's their survival thing, which Matthew has very aptly said. So what happened? It's a survival thing now. So many of these enterprises have gone digital without being ready for it. And it has again exposed them in public, and they're vulnerable, right? They don't have option, right? Okay. So this is the bigger risk. Okay. User is for sure exposed, but together it is giving a lot of opportunity to hackers to attack these enterprises.
So, I mean, the whole threat landscape is completely changing. So it becomes kind of obvious that the role of CISO also is evolving or changing with new normal, right? So, Mr. Jitendra, you spoke about, having your focus majorly shifted towards security now, right? Would like to understand from you as to how the role of CISO is evolving in this new normal.
I mean, now CISO being recognized as one of the major role and a mandate role from business point of view, and top of that, the compliance point of view. So like you have a CFO, like you have a CXO, CIO. So the role of CISO is mandate in some of the organization, especially in a BFSI sector.
Right.
So, some of the panelists talk about that the current situation of COVID, which is allowing user to do work from home, but the risk was remain there earlier also, and the risk what we are seeing in the future may be different. Looking to the footprint of the digital adoption, whether we talked about the highly automated plant, IP-driven machineries, digital economy, and all. So the landscape of the risk when you deal with the money and with the deal with the business is largely depend on the technology nowadays. So as you increase the footprint or as you increase the connected devices or the connected machines, you are actually exposing the risk in a higher scale. So the major shift from managing the risk, what we used to do is from uh, active to it is a proactive. Earlier used to be happen that we will having a reactive approach.
Sure.
Now we are talking about the artificial intelligence and machine learning, which alert me in advance so that I am protected. So zero trust sort of a things which organization taking an approach, because this is a major concern in the sense that if anything goes, I am talking about it, my environment, or we talk about the BFSI. If any breach happens, they will definitely out of business. I mean, that type of engagement is there if I am losing my clinical data. So it is on one day I will be out of the business and I will be no more in the competition. Not only I will lose the business, but I will lose the reputation also.
Sure.
So this is one of the top agenda, which is normally we never discuss, but now it is one of the very vital subject in the boardroom when we discuss about the security, and every day we talk about the security in large within our information technology landscape, but also to the business side is becoming a normal agenda for any IT CIO or CISO. So CISO role is evolving, and each and every organization must be having in shape of whether it is a security officer or maybe a CISO. So it is a designated position which need to be, looking into that the curve that ahead of the smart threat to manage the risk.
Sure, sure. So the whole approach is shifting. That's what I get from you. At this point of time in the discussion, Mr. Tushar, I would like to come to you because you come from an industry solution background, provider background, right? So what has been your interaction with the CISOs and the C-level suite people out there who are bothered and concerned about the organization security? What changes you have seen in the industry?
So what we have experienced in our interactions with our CEOs, CXOs, and CISOs is that they are like worried about the security operations, the efficient security operations, and to retain the team that they have. Essentially, what happens is that because of the exponential increase in the security volume of security threats in exponential proportion, and also the complexity of the security threats. The security analysts for that part of the SOC team, they find it really difficult to manage and look into each and every threats that come into their SOC. And as a result, they lose, they're not able to look into every incident. And as a result, consequently, they also miss some real threats also. So these are the challenges that the CISOs face, and they really look for some solutions which can mitigate the situation. So towards that end, that they always look for, they say, cognitive capabilities or the cognitive in the solution, the SOC, that can help them in the faster detection of faster and accurate detection, speedy detection of threats, and that can like detect threats faster than what it used to be done when it was without those cognitive tools. And also they want speedy response and resolution. So these are and also prioritize threats that can prioritize the threats based on the risk score. So
Sure.
if I about the threat detection, speedy threat detection, so if we include a cognitive capability in the SOC, that is, we can also say augmented intelligence. So because we are not telling it artificial intelligence, because we know that artificial intelligence just simulate, it does the mimicry of the human brain. But here, the intelligence, the cognitive intelligence, it augments the human intelligence. So they work in tandem with each other. They are helping, complementing each other. So if that kind of capability can it can detect 10 times as many incidents, and that too about 50 times faster than man doing it completely manual. So, and if we talk about incident response time and resolution time, that also improves greatly. So the dwell time on security threats is also improved to a great extent. That really benefits both the organization and the SOC team. And then it also helps in the prioritization of the threats. So that is accurate prioritization. So based on it, it assigns a risk score based on the global correlation that it does with its own corpus of security data that it has got, and also the local correlation, local analytical algorithms. Based on that, it prioritizes the risks and threats so that the SOC team can focus on the real threats that can matter to the organization.
Sure, Mr. Tushar.
These are some of the highlights.
Sure. No, thank you so much. Indeed, quite insightful. You spoke about cognitive security, and I think at this point of time, I would like to go to Mr. Mukesh, leading the large, enterprise in the information services space. And my question to you, Mr. Mukesh, is that how can CISO respond to threats with greater confidence and speed? What Tushar was also talking about, that's the ask today. What role can cognitive security play in helping CISO stay ahead of the curve? So your views on that, Mr. Mukesh?
Based on my experience, leading AI for Microsoft or after coming to India in Geo and other places, right? So what I've learned is, AI has all these capabilities in terms of trying to help you find patterns and predict also good patterns and all. And as we discussed about that, it doesn't have to be artificial intelligence always. It can be augmented intelligence. I think that's the future, right? So instead of we going to one system and asking what the system can do, now we are actually making it augmented, which means it becomes a part of system. And especially looking at from the cognitive side of it, right? The pattern, everything has there, right? A human behavior is there, a pattern is there. So trying to simulate about, okay, fine, this could be an option or a threat where we might lose something around those, and coming up with those use case scenarios and then trying to simulate those elements helps us do testing ahead of time so that CISO can probably have a reasonably good sleep. That is more on the prevention side of it. So if you look at it from the model, right, the first is prevention part. Second part is detection, right? So any anomaly detection and all, cognitive plays a very important role because we know what are the typical patterns. And if we see some of the patterns getting changed, that can be another one for detection. And the third one, most important, right? If as soon as the intrusion happens, how can we quickly shut down and how can we quickly bring it up again, right? So those are some of the elements which happens. And I think a good carve-out plan with a focus on data, focus on the behavior, and then making it part of the system important. Recently, something similar I have done for Capgemini as well, where we were able to do just immediately after the pandemic started, we were able to start having the system in place so that this can be detected and prevented in the right time.
Okay, excellent, excellent. Mr. Satyendra, if you may have inputs on this aspect, please.
No, I think Mukesh has covered all the aspects, right? The prevention, and detection and also reaction, right? All three have covered, right? But one thing which I would like to add, so one of the big risks in security is the people, right?
Right.
Okay. These are all systematic, right? Sure. The cognitive can play very good role in becoming the, person sitting next to you with every user. For example, phishing attack, social engineering, right? As a human, we can see this is a phishing attack, but my user doesn't know, right? If all this, I go to malicious site and I know what is happening as a trained user, right? But normal user doesn't know, right? If this system, cognitive system, okay, if I get a phishing mail, on top of that, it puts a message that this is phishing mail, look at the ID sent and, display is different, don't action on it, right? If this type of things start coming and this cognitive system can really understand, because when I open the mail, I can figure it out. I'm sure the system can figure it out, right? So Actually, we need, this type of system to support every single user of enterprise. Imagine, right? You have 5,000 users and every user has been supported by artificial intelligence bot helping on all the input data, whether website exposure or whether it's a mail, right? CISO can sleep with the peace.
Sure. Sure.
At least we all know that most of the data leak happens because of user, not because of system. System breaking is less, is the user getting into social engineering, phishing is the more, right? Okay, that can be prevented, and that cannot be done human wise. Like you can do enough number of training, retraining, training, nothing is going to, you still have enough people who can really get into this trouble.
Sure, sure. No, very valid inputs, very valid inputs. Mr. Matthew, continuing on the same, same theme, is that, you heard Mr. Mukesh talk about, and Mr. Tushar talk about augmenting, and, you also heard Mr. Satyendra talking about it, the, shortage of the skills, right? I mean, in context to that, right, the cognitive security. So on one hand, CISOs are encountering a shortage of skilled manpower, as we heard, right? While on the other hand, cyber attacks are growing in volumes and complexity. Can AI help in overcoming these challenges? That's your views on that.
Yeah, definitely. So when we talk about, just to add on to what we discussed till now, so many of these cognitive solutions, we can, say for example, an expert in this cyber security, he will, just as Satyendra said, he will be able to quickly identify a phishing email. So there are certain pattern in that. So from maybe the email ID or the type of message. And there are ways where an expert can identify that. So we can have the artificial intelligence AI solutions built in, which will do the same identification, right? So that AI system will be able to identify that pattern. And every hacker is leaving certain digital footprint. So we'll be able to identify and monitor and respond to security events. So certain events are happening, and then there are certain patterns happening. The AI can always detect that and see what is the pattern. Is there and predict there are a potential hacking. And modern firewalls, of course, you can have built-in machine learning technology that will easily detect a usual pattern in the network traffic, and how the network traffic is monitor it and predict if there is a potential threat which is coming in. And then other area is using natural language processing, NLP. We can have AI security professionals to detect the origin of cyber attack. And an NLP solution can analyze the vulnerabilities and scan the internet data, and the predictive analytics using which will identify malicious threats in advance. Sure. So all these are some of the cyber security solutions which can be built using AI. And then machine learning can be used for mobile endpoints. So since people are working remotely from home, so machine learning can be used for mobile endpoint security, for smartphones, for any gadgets, tablets or notebooks. So all those endpoint protection can be detected, and any any potential threat can be detected and predicted in advance. Sure. So these are some of the areas. And again, if we take a step back and look at this whole threat, every cyber attack is leaving certain digital footprints, and there are patterns and there are trends which an AI solution will be able to easily detect and predict. And the machine will be able to learn, and it will be able to predict and optimize, and will be able to predict with better accuracy over a period of time. So we'll be able to, as long as the digital cyber threats are leaving digital footprint and logs and security events, we can deploy this kind of AI solutions to predict it and take the precautionary measures. So I think that should be the way forward.
No, I think that makes sense, because I mean, the amount of the skill manpower shortage this industry is facing, it's very difficult to get those number of people, and really, as Mr. Mukesh and Mr. Satyendra was talking about that, shadowing all the users in your organization is practically impossible through the placement of shadow IT resources or shadow resources, right? So that's absolutely not possible. But cognitive security might have some promise, to deliver on this particular front. Let me come to you, Mr. Dinesh, on this. You have been, providing solutions to various enterprises today, and you have seen the shortage firsthand because your customer demand and you face that skilled manpower shortage. You have the power of cognitive securities in your hand through your solutions, right? So what is your take on this?
Skill shortage, people tend to invest time more and more on repetitive tasks. Say there are large number of threats which is coming nowadays, and the risk score of threat is in the higher number. So similar incidents are occurring day in and day out. So people tend to invest time more on that. With the help of cognitive SOC and AI for doing initial triage, this cognitive SOC can take the level 1 initial triage, do an automatic process for those to remediate those activities or to give some insights about these activities. So they spend less time on those tasks and actually investing more on the threats, the other upcoming threats and activities. So this AI and cognitive SOC helps them to handle initial tasks by the solution itself and taking them to the next stage for handling more in a detailed manner. Plus, AI can value add on giving insights of an incident where people can't see or reach, or AI with the pattern prediction and the learning prediction can tell these are also in occurrences of an incident. Kindly look onto it, which helps a great value add and gives a speedy response to an incident.
Sure. Thank you so much, Mr. Dinesh. Thank you so much. Mr. Satyendra, if I may come to you, and if I may ask you, though you've shared briefly, but if you can little elaborate on how you are leveraging or planning to leverage cognitive security in your enterprise. I mean, the possibilities you've spoken about, but in terms of roadmap, plan ahead, what are you?
The solutions in the market are not many, right?
Mm-hmm.
Solutions are coming up, right? So for sure, whatever we have discussed, Mukesh has mentioned, Matthew has mentioned, I have talked about, right? What we are looking for, right? But solution-wise, I don't see there are many solutions. Means now people are developing it. Even O365 type, Office 365, right? Even it has a spam, phishing, and type of thing. But we know that these are also learning right now. So this pandemic may give opportunity to many of these companies to build their good models, AI engines, right? And automatically many of these things, like, whether you have antiviruses, right? Lot of, right, EDRs, like all those things. All these companies are itself building that type of knowledge, AI capabilities, and automatically their product will enhance. You name it, right? Whether it's a firewall, whether it's the mail scanning or antiviruses, you name it, right?
Yeah.
All these tools will have these capabilities.
Sure.
Right. Okay. It will start helping users to do the right thing.
Correct.
I started using Cortana, just few days back to help you what is pending for you, right? It's just a very new feature, right?
Okay.
It start telling you which important mails are waiting for you. You have committed something and now you have to respond. Like that, this type of intelligence will come in all different aspects. So I'm just saying, if we stick to the right companies, right tool, okay, automatically all these cognitive things will come into play.
Sure. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Very insightful. Tushar, Mr. Tushar, if I may come to you, you've been, as I said, interacting day in, day out, right? What's your take on this? Like, how the organizations are planning to leverage on this particular part?
Yes, you mean the cognitive capabilities, how they
That's
are,
right.
You mean the best practices that they want to adopt?
So leveraging or planning to leverage cognitive securities in their enterprises,
right?
From your customer side, your take on that.
I understand that the customers are interested that the security immune system should be infused with artificial or the cognitive capabilities. And the fundamental solutions that they want, that cognitive capabilities should be infused into are like the SIM solution, because we know that SIM solution ingests a humongous amount of threats from the different log sources that it is got connected to. And we know that the SIM has its own analytical algorithms, AI algorithms, that does the local correlation of the security threats that it detects locally in the environment. But then that is not sufficient for organizations to uncover many hidden threats that cannot be covered manually or that cannot be detected locally, because that threats that are indicators of compromises that has been discovered by the SIM solution locally has limited context in that local, but it could have global context also. And for that to happen, they need to leverage the cognitive capabilities that can have its own corpus of data points, security data points in the range of 10 billion data points that I'm particular about our own product QRadar, which leverages our X-Force threat intelligence, and that has the Watson for cyber security that has got around 10 billion plus data points. So it does that correlation, global correlation in minutes, and establishes relationship with the uncover that hidden relationship between the indicators of compromise that has been found locally and that those relationship that are found the outside, that is the outside of the local network. So they want that kind of solution that can enrich the locally detected threats with more context and global context. And secondly, organizations are also interested in the user behavior analytics, also powered by the artificial machine learning algorithms that can solve the problem of the rogue insider or the insider threats, because insider threat is also a very major concern these days because of many issues, disgruntled employees and all. So who have access to a lot of systems, critical systems or infrastructure like the database servers and all. So there should be solutions that can identify the malicious activities on the part of the user, because those kind of solutions can develop a normal baseline behavior of a user and also the normal baseline behavior of the peer group that a user falls in. So there must be solutions to that. And also we have seen much interest in the database activity monitoring, so that those solutions can also, like in current scenario, there are many database administrators who are also working from outside or working from home. So there could be situations that their credentials get compromised, and some of them outside people who could be good in database accesses, database server management, they can use the compromised credentials and try to access the database servers inside the organizations. That then there must be solutions that can understand the malicious activity in the SQL queries that is being sent to the database servers. So we need all this kind of solutions currently. So the malicious SQL queries can also be detected, and they can solve the issues of like end-to-end data protection. I've covered some of the fundamentals.
Okay. No, thank you so much. Thank you. So I think what I'm hearing from you, and I'm hearing from my other panelists also, that almost every enterprise today plans to leverage on the power of cognitive security, right? So that's true. But Mr. Satyendra also spoke about some challenges, right, in terms of having the availability of such solutions today. When I say having the solutions with certain level of maturity, I'm assuming that he's definitely saying that, because there are many solutions. Many companies claim today to have solutions for so many things, right? But he's talking about a basic certain level of maturity that he's looking at in this solution, right? So that's one piece. But barring that, if there are any other challenges, maybe Mr. Jitendra, if you want to share that, and then I'll come to Mr. Mukesh also, that the solutions or implementation or adoption of cognitive security, what kind of challenges do you foresee in the adoption in current scenario?
First thing is that we need to understand the skill set. The way, the securities and the smart threats are happening, it is very difficult to manage within our current set of skill set within information technology. So largely depend upon a good security provider having a outsourced SOC NOC.
Yeah.
Those who are equipped with all the security advancement, and they manage our network, because it is next to impossible to invest so much of amount on managing the security. And top of that, we are not very sure what is going to be the future look like. So it is always advisable for a large enterprise like us, where we have our operation across the globe. So who is going to manage what? So we have to have a one single line thread where you have everything is managed and you get some predictive alerts, and that will be managed by some intelligent SOC NOC. And that is what we are having this arrangement of having SOC NOC outsourced.
Sure, sure. Thank you so much. Mr. Mukesh, if you may have your views.
Adoption part, right? So as Satyan also mentioned, right, the solution maturity and all will always be a challenge. But I think the more and more interesting one would be the self-learning solution, right? So as long as the capability is there, one of the things we have to also acknowledge is, right, so at some point, right, we have to understand our users' behavior. If you see that, hey, Mukesh never goes to these websites, hey, Mukesh never does this activity, and suddenly this activity start coming in, a suspicion should be raised. And with the enough confidence level, should Mukesh's connection be prevented for next 2 hours or not? Something like that, more to do with cognitive nature of a human behavior. And then looking at the pattern and say, yes, he never comes online at 3 a.m. and suddenly he comes online and trying to access some data which he had never accessed for last 3 months. Okay, something might be there. Can we throw an OTP? Can we ask them to re-log in? Right.
Sure.
Those are some of the techniques to be available. And then when we come back to the installation piece, the adoption of those parts, I think on the organization front, people will adopt what we ask them to adopt. But the solution maturity will be the key part. How much self-learning is available? I think that is something when if I'm looking from an AI angle for the solution I have recommended to my clients, I think this is what is the important part of self-learning for EC.
Sure. No, thank you so much. Maybe Mr. Matthew, if I come to you, we've spoken about organizations do want to leverage on cognitive security. However, there are obvious challenges out there, right? Those also we heard. But in terms of best practices, some of the best practices that you might have implemented in your enterprises or you may be aware of, right? That's something that could be insightful for today's discussion. Please feel free to share that. Some of the best practice of adoption of cognitive security. Yeah.
Sure. Satyendra said, if you look for some of the ready-made codes products which are mature to protect this, we don't see much, not many in the market. So, and we don't need to really wait for that also. So as we are talking about building cognitive solutions for security and all, we should also know that the people, the hackers are also smart enough and they are also innovating. So there are innovative hacking methods, deep fake is coming in, and then there are innovative AI-enabled hacking methods are coming in. So it has to be a journey where it's also, even if it is machine learning, so we need to have that learning process and grow it in a systematic way. So that should be the approach. So the way the hackers are innovating, we should build systems which will outsmart them and detect them. And some of these human patterns, like Mukesh was saying, somebody is suddenly logging in at 3 a.m. in the morning and suddenly trying to access some of the confidential data. So that's something not really expected from a normal person, or from that person has not done that for the last so many months. So the same way that there are human behaviors and patterns which we need to inbuilt into these kind of systems, and our system should be constantly learning and improving, right? So, and then again, from industry to industry, your operations, and if you are from a pharma, the requirement will be different from a healthcare or from a banking. The requirement will be different. Of course, the security threats are, there are many common areas, but again, we need to have solutions built, customized, which is meeting your industry requirement, meeting your organization requirements, and which is constantly evolving and improving and learning. So it's too early to look for organization-wide accepted standards or norms. Of course, there are industry-wide standards which every organization is adopting. But if you look at across, and if we again go for such adopted standards, I would say we may also be obsolete because the hackers are innovating. So our standards also should constantly upgrade ourselves, and our standards and best practices also should be learning and improving day by day.
Sure.
I think that should be the way forward.
You rightly mentioned, Mr. Matthew, that it's a kind of ongoing thing, and then there is a race between us as a custodian versus the hackers out there to kind of who outsmarts who. So it's definitely the case. Dinesh, if I come to you and take your views on this as to some of the best practices that you might have come across or would have implemented, and something that you want to share with us all here so that we can learn from that would be great.
Many have covered on all the touch points which is required, as Mr. Mukesh, as Mr. Matthew, and Satyendra and others covered on the behavioral patterns and the ideas and the automated process of AI that enhances data and automates process as a greater value add. So people's focus are majorly shifting towards that in terms of automation and automating the security process, remediation on the initial triages. That does contribute great.
Thank you so much, Dinesh. So I think with that, I am almost coming to the end of this session. And before we end the session, I think the last very interesting piece, new normal. Everybody has its own definition, but it is very clear. One, accelerated speed of digital adoption in the enterprises. We have absolutely no control, right? We are the leaders. We have to kind of be on top of it. So that's one. The second is that not everybody can come to office, right? So, and it's not just about work from home. It is like work from anywhere, right? So that is some situation that we can't avoid. And even if the new normal sets in, whether or not this situation going to change, we don't know. And I think it's not going to change, right? So, Mr. Mukesh, you spoke about lowering the guard because, we had to suddenly face this situation. Mr. Satyendra, you also spoke about it, that, some of the considerations and lack of, enough technologies, solutions out there, and, having to get into this kind of a situation. But keeping this whole thing in mind, right, maybe it's I would like to take views from all of you, like, how does future look like, with respect to work from home and the importance of cognitive security in this kind of a scenario, work anywhere. Maybe we can start with Mr. Satyendra, with you.
Sure. So I'm saying future looks like as whatever is looking right now.
Right.
We are already in the future, right? So coming to cognitive, yes, as I mentioned, manually it's not going to be possible to protect our data, our users, right? As Matthew mentioned, the hackers are innovating. They're also working from home. They're working 24/7. They are very passionate. You all know that hackers are typically very passionate, very hardworking, and very smart people, right? Okay. So now when the battle is going to happen, okay, it has to be on par. They are using the automated bots, right? The artificial intelligence. They are on that. If you are still use the old methods, you will have trouble, right?
Sure.
So we have data. We have users who are not very digital savvy, who don't understand what security means. So all those things are negative for us. Okay. So only way we can protect is, increasing our security mechanism, taking as much as input or tools which automatically take care of these things like cognitive security and all.
Sure.
So new normal is already there. So
sure.
I don't think it's going to change. It may become easier, a little bit easier, but more or less it's going to stay like this.
Right. No, I completely agree. Mr. Mukesh, over to you.
Yeah. So I think, yes, I agree with Satyendraji. I know it will go, actually, this is the new normal, of course, but I think it is going to go worse. It is going to increase the number of layer of protection, layer of things people have to do to get to the data. But in the parallel, some of the innovation which happen, like data virtualization and some of the elements wherein you don't need physical data, right? The fact that data can leak it because you have physical data. But now if you go toward more, again, I'm totally slightly going on tangent, but if you go innovate on the API level part and all, where you are getting an API call and you never get the data, you only get your name. I think that is the future is going to look like. whole modernization of the way we look at data, that's the future. And some of the things which I'm working right now is actually going towards that, wherein why do you need to have physical data? So I think that would be something coming up, and that's where it will go down again, saying, yes, I think we have equipped with artificial intelligence, looking at the behavior of the people, and the data, the real data you will never get, and you will never get in one chunk. Okay,
Yeah.
you get bits and pieces, and then human intelligence will be required to stitch together, or you don't even need data. You just need yes or no. Maybe that is the future which looks like. That's my understanding.
That's interesting.
That's interesting. Yep.
Yeah, interesting. And we should have a conversation on this offline, maybe. Yeah, that's
Really love to.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Matthew.
Yeah. So what Mukesh said, it's an interesting topic. Probably we should have another 1 hour discussion on that. Yeah. So as Satyendra is saying, we are already in the future. So the world is going to be physically disconnected and digitally connected, as I said in the beginning. So we have to live with this reality. And every industry we have opened our doors. So the moment you say I'm connected to internet, we are opening the doors of our house, and then we expect the thief not to come inside, which is very too optimistic. So we should be expecting the thief to come inside as soon as you open the door, and then so we have to live with that. So we have to outsmart the thief. We have to think, be innovative, come up with innovative solutions, and live with that. So that's a challenge. So earlier this problem was faced only by the IT companies or ITES companies. Now, since because of this pandemic, all the industries, even the conventional manufacturing industry, steel industry, everybody is at least partially, they also need to go digital. And the moment you have people connecting from home and working using different gadgets, so we are all opening our doors at multiple points.
Sure.
So leverage all the technologies, cognitive or technologies or artificial intelligence, every technology, and be innovative and learn and go forward. That's the next step.
Sure. Zero trust. What
Yeah.
I'm getting from you, zero trust. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Dinesh, Mr. Dinesh.
You rightly said we are in the place of zero trust, and as Mr. Matthew told, that we have to leverage the current security solutions which is available, get learned, get innovated, advance with, and be hackers who are innovating more than us, and we have to give it up to them and protect the infrastructure.
Great. Thank you so much. Mr. Tushar, over to you.
So what I understand from the current situation, that is the new normal of working from home scenario, and also the business requirement of organizations who have to go for the omni-channel commerce with multiple channels of commerce. So what I understand is that the traditional perimeter security, it does not it's not hold true, because the perimeter security has got blurred, because now users are accessing the company's resources from their mobiles. So the fundamental thing that the organizations need to focus on the identity. So there must be a continuous identity assurance that should include the cognitive capabilities that can understand the behavioral metrics, biometrics, based on the behavioral biometrics of the users, then the global device footprint of the devices that they are using to access the company's resources. Then that it should also detect the anomalies in the current activity or the current transaction of the user. And also it should have the pattern of the usual pattern of the users accessing the resources. And with the moment it discovers any anomalous behavior, the identity should be revoked, because we cannot just grant access to users based on just one, the identity that credentials that he has have. That credential could be compromised also. So we have to focus on the identity, and that should be continuous identity assurance.
Sure. No, thank you so much. I think, together today we all learned, the importance of this current situation, what kind of scenarios that we have been put across. And it's virtually a war between the hackers out there and leaders like yourself here, right? And all of us, we have to kind of work towards it. Otherwise, it's a time for zero trust, and the time to come is going to be tougher than what we are experiencing right now, because everybody is improving in terms of their technical landscape by using the cognitives, the augmented power of technology and all that. So I think with that, thank you very much, all of you, for your insightful contribution that you shared your experiences, your practitioner's view. There was a lot to learn from today's discussion, and I really look forward to connecting back with you, Mr. Mukesh, and Mr. Satyendra, and Mr. Matthew, for further learning on this topic. And Mr. Mukesh, you brought in very interesting topic, right? And that's something that I'm very interested in. And yeah, Mr. Satyendra will also connect with you offline to understand what steps you have been taking. Thank you so much, Mr. Matthew. Thank you so much, Mr. Tushar. Thank you so much, Mr. Dinesh. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Had a great time.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Had a great time. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.